It is 10:06 Eastern Time, 7:06 Las Vegas time. That's for Mike King's alarm clock there. This is Money Info, brought to you by Princeton Research with Mike King in Las Vegas, Charles Moskowitz in Boston. And guys, we were off last week because of the Memorial Day holiday, but hey, a very pleasant good morning bi-coastally.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, just very good. Waiting to see if we're going to have another bullish Tuesday. The S&P, this would be the 11th straight S&P up Tuesday, and for the Dow it would be the 22nd, using a higher close as an up. Usually I call an up day a higher high and a higher low. Higher high and a higher low. Well, we've had that condition ever since March 19th.
Wow.
March 19th, we had a lower low and a lower high in both the S&P and the Dow. Since then, every Tuesday has been either an up close or a higher high and a higher low.
I want you to know, Mike, that our Lynette here, our office manager here, has said that you can take full credit for that. That it's because of the Money Info show that's exactly what's happened on Tuesdays, and it is no coincidence. So you can take a bow.
Of course not.
You can take a bow. Hey, by the way, Mike, your hometown was the star of the CBS newscast just before you. I don't know whether you heard it or not, but that all of a sudden real estate is going absolutely bonkers as Las Vegas is the #1 growth market in the United States.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Really, statistics play a funny game.
Mm-hmm.
The growth rate may be higher because Las Vegas was terribly depressed.
Right.
And had gone down much more than average in 06, 07, and 08.
Right.
It was a real estate demise.
Well, I mean, you figure Las Vegas, Phoenix, Fresno, and Port St. Lucie were the 4 fastest growing communities for maybe 5 or 6 years. And then, obviously, when the rug got pulled out from everybody, we're growing too, but certainly we got a big hole to crawl out of, and as do you.
You know, it's like that dogs of the Dow, Greg.
Hey, Charles.
Hi. It's like the dogs of the Dow, where they take the Dow stocks that yield the most at the end of the year, and that's the new portfolio. The fallacy, of course, is that they only yield the most because they're down the most.
Mm-hmm.
But you go from some of them the worst performer to the best performer.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of where they are. You got to remember, if a $100 stock goes down $50, it has to double in order to get back to even.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Didn't think about it that way, but you're right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anyway.
So
nice day up here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. We've got something cooking in the Gulf that you'll probably have maybe next Monday.
Good.
Well, hopefully it's just rain.
We had 3 brutal days here.
Oh, I know.
In the last 94, 95 degrees, which in the dead of summer you don't usually get.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
But, that's what air conditioning's for.
That's exactly. And if you go to the Cape on vacation, you're outdoors anyway, so who cares, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the water anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Yeah. So what's I was looking. This is very weird because normally I can pull out maybe 20, 15, 20 pages of newsy type stuff. There hasn't been much. I mean, this is a very bizarre period of time here. There's like no major big news coming out.
Yeah, there's really not much going on.
The trade deficit.
Well, there are no elections.
Right. Yeah. The trade deficit.
Up here we have one. because of the Kerry seat having a special election the end of this month. But aside from that, what a great respite from having to deal with all of that.
Well, now the Lincoln Chafee thing in Rhode Island, is he filling out his term or is he resigning?
I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot.
I mean,
you
it's
guys
right
don't
next
care
door.
about Rhode Island.
No,
it's right
couldn't
next
care
door,
less.
but you couldn't
Right.
care less. I love it. Oh, man. Oh, that's funny.
Hey guys, I just popped on. Wanted to say hi.
Hey,
everybody.
how are you?
I'm doing good.
So what is going on over in Tampa Bay, Mr. Casey?
Well, I guess, gosh, we've been on a tour of the country over the last couple of weeks with basketball.
Oh, your son, huh?
Yeah. Yep. We went out west and played a few games, big tournament, and then we came back here, had 3 days, and then had to head down to South Florida for the state finals, the Division I state championships, and just got done with all of that yesterday. So it's been on the road a lot.
Wow. So I take it you guys over on the other side of the state get out of school a little bit earlier than over here.
Well, no.
No. Oh. Okay. Oh, you take school bus on the road, right? Oh.
Not up for Father of the Year. No, he's had to miss. He's had to miss quite a bit of school for basketball, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But on the upside, he is in the National Honor Society. He does receive straight A's, so he brings his work with him, and he does okay with it.
Well, just keep my my name penciled in there as a potential agent for him when he gets out of college.
I'll tell you what. Coming off of back-to-back, long distance, we were in a car, 20 hours. It was a brutal series between the two of them, and the state championships were this past week, and he was just beat up. And they had 5 games in 2 days for the states. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start pushing a little more tsunami in him before these games because he's just beat up, and let's kind of see what happens. And the results were amazing. I mean, he did really well. They ended up winning the state championship.
Wow.
So they're ranked number 1 in the state. They're ranked number 3 in the country. And he's 11 years old. Granted, he's a big 11-year-old, but he's just confirmed what we've always test. We test our products on university students.
Mm-hmm.
I've never tested anything as young as 10, 11 years old. Figure if I'm going to test him, I might as well do it on my son. And the results were just phenomenal. I mean, he didn't have fatigue. He didn't have soreness coming off of. They'll have a game, and then they'll have an hour and a half rest, and then they'll have another game.
Oh, God.
And, boy, just
Are you
performed like a
kidding?
champ.
Oh,
No,
man.
It's grueling.
That is brutal. Wow. Holy smokes.
Yeah, started them out with half a dose, worked our way up to a full dose just because of the schedule, and no stomach problems, no nothing. I mean, just performed like a champ. I'm a believer. It's not 11 years old. If you have a larger kid, is definitely not too young.
Interesting. Wow, that's an interesting story there, fella. Now he is 11 years old, so that puts him 6th grade?
He's 5th grade.
5th grade. So
Yep.
I'll bet the high schools are over there in Tampa Bay are salivating over this kid.
Yeah, I had heard that there's one of this team is the best within this area. I mean, kids travel an hour just to practice on this team, and it's a small group. It's now there's 8 on the team. We lost a couple just because of the grueling schedule, and one of the local prep schools is trying to keep as many of these kids together, and then when they get to high school age, offer them scholarships so that they can. After playing together for 3 or 4 years, they have a lot of chemistry together. It takes when you have kids that play together, any team,
Yep.
when they play together, they're so much more effective than when they're new. Even if they have the same ability, just being together, they know what each other is going to do, and in that split-second game speed decision, they can make better decisions. So they're trying to keep them together going into one of these prep schools, which I'm excited about.
Was this Tampa Jesuit?
Tampa Prep.
Tampa Prep. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. He's that good.
So we'll see.
Wow.
See what happens.
Holy smokes, 5th grader. Oh my God. Oh, you got your hands full, my friend.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Wow. So what's going on sales wise for Tsunami? How's it going? How's the company going?
Things are going well. I just started shipping over.
How would
to
you know?
Asia.
You've been on the road, right?
You know what? That's the beauty and the efficiency of the internet.
Yeah.
I could be stationed on the moon.
That's right.
And run everything. Everything that
That's right.
I do is all mobile. Amazon does our fulfillment, so we ship directly from the manufacturer to Amazon's warehouses, and boy, do they have a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we download the CSV file from our ordering process. Have to manipulate it slightly, then upload it to Amazon. Amazon takes care of the rest. And listen to this: Amazon, for a typical box, if I were to ship it, ship it out of our warehouse, using the postal service or whoever, it costs about $10.
Okay.
If I go through Amazon and let them do all of the work, it's $7. So it's with all of their fees, with all of Amazon's fees.
How are they doing that?
Well, their volume is just staggering. I mean, they must have 100 trucks there every day pulling boxes out, going to the UPS distribution center.
Well, there's all sorts of weird discussion, and Charles has talked about this too, about privatization of the postal service. And you look at something like an Amazon, and you realize, okay, this probably could be done more efficiently. And of course, the big question that, if you decided to somehow alter the postal service, is what happens to all the postal retirees. That's going to be the real big question, because
the postal service is an equation that can't work. It was doomed
Right.
from the beginning. It's run half by the unions and half by the government.
right.
How can that possibly? I mean, I can't believe anybody was even delusional enough to think that would work. It's going to be an $8 billion a year loss, the rest of time, until they either put it out of business or do merge it into one of the commercial carriers.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's interesting, because Tom Sullivan was doing a devil's advocate on the other side, saying, well, do you want to pay $7 for a letter? And,
Who sends letters?
What's the letter?
Yeah,
you mean you can mail an A?
That's you guys are terrible. No,
You want to hear something? On Shark Tank a couple of weeks ago, there was a mother and daughter from Cohasset, which is probably 8 miles from here, who had a cupcake store.
Oh, okay.
And their thing is that they ship. So I'm saying, ship a cupcake, what the? First of all, how's it going to stay fresh? And second of all,
Right.
how's it not going to get broken? And you know what they do? They use ball jars.
Really?
And they have a deal with either Amazon or UPS that the cupcake, which costs, $3, I'll guess, in the store, for $7.99, they ship it anywhere in the U.S. It stays fresh, and you get the ball jar to use after you're done with it.
Wow. That's a great idea.
I mean, imagine if you did that with the post office. First of all, the ball jar would end up in pieces.
Yeah.
And because of that, the cupcake would be inedible.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys, they work in bulk, and I guess, like you say, there are, you would think that there are, more efficient ways to do it, and so what? They make their deal. They know what their overhead is. I mean, I didn't notice UPS or FedEx having real problems with their margins with all of this e-commerce that gets shipped out.
Well, you're exactly right. The day of the letter is dead. I mean, letters are gone. Everything is done electronically now, so that leaves package service as the only commodity that's being moved, and the U.S. Postal Service just isn't efficient with their entitlement costs.
It's not only that. Have you ever taken a package to a post office? They measure length by height by width.
Yeah.
And you know, there's an upcharge for everything that doesn't fit into their, you know, exact dimensional requirements. I mean, my post office here in Hanover, a town of 10 or 11,000, has a FedEx box in the post office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do here as well. Yeah. You're right. It's amazing. We happen to have in St. Lucie West a FedEx office, you know, right near our house, so we take the stuff there most of the time. But yeah, you're right. They are starting to coexist a little bit, and actually,
it's not even only that, Greg. The fact of the matter is that when you go in to the post office, let's say you want to mail a regular letter-size envelope, except that, you know, you got 6 pages on it and it weighs over an ounce. You don't pay for 2 ounces. They, you know, all of a sudden it's $1.43.
Right.
Instead of, you know, well, I use those Forever stamps. I bought a bunch of them when they first came out.
Right.
But,
So did we.
I mean, I don't even know. My wife asked me, how much does it cost to mail a letter? And I said, I don't have a clue. I use these Forever stamps when I use one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well,
but,
yeah.
You know, their requirements on weight or dimension are, I mean, it's ridiculous. The post office used to be, okay, maybe slow, okay, maybe somewhat unreliable, but still the low-cost producer, provider.
Right.
Now they're not.
Yeah.
No, before we switched over to Amazon, we shipped everything through the Postal Service, and we got to know our carriers pretty well. They'd have to send 2 or 3 trucks in a day. And one of the guys was telling me that, granted, he's been there for 20 years. He said when people enter the Postal Service, the only reason they leave is because they kill somebody or they retire. That
Right.
Nobody leaves the Postal Service. He said he's been there for 20 years, and I can't remember exactly what he told me, but it was in the neighborhood of he gets 4 to 4.5 months of paid vacation a year. He said that he gets so much vacation, paid vacation, it's impossible for him to use it, so he keeps carrying it forward. And he goes, you know, it's very common for people to retire and have, you know, 3 and 4 years of vacation built up, and they cut him a check for $100,000 or $150,000 or you know, whatever the buyout of that vacation. He said the time that he gets is unusable. It's impossible to take 4 months of vacation. You have to take a week every month.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's funny you say that. When Carol was at NBC, it would, you know, especially under GE, it was you use it or lose it. You know,
Right.
and believe me, 2 weeks was the max, especially at GE. But you know, I got a question for all three. Mike, how many checks do you write a month?
100.
You actually write checks? Do you really?
I do. Yeah, besides, don't forget, I manage an oil company.
Okay.
So I have to write checks to all types of mechanics.
I got you. Okay. Casey, what about you over at Tsunami?
You know, I only write 2 checks a month, and it's the same 2. I could write them for the next 5 years, and it's just these same 2 that I write every month. Everything else is electronic.
Yeah, us too. Exactly. Charles, what about you?
I could count them on one hand and have fingers left over.
Yeah, and that's Carol and me. You know, and almost everything we do here at the station is all electronic. The FCC now,
Right, or debit cards.
Yeah, well, the FCC won't even take a check now. It's like, you know, they got to do everything electronic with them now.
Well, and it's the same thing with e-commerce. It's either, you know, a credit or debit card or PayPal.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, try and buy something on Amazon where you tell them you're going to send them a check.
Yeah. yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, there are some who will take it, but it kind of destroys the whole buy it and get it mentality, because the check has to get there, it has to be deposited, and it has to clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then they send it out.
Right.
I mean, you might as well go to a brick and mortar store and buy it and walk out with it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, and let's put it this way, Mike. If you were not running these companies that you run, would you be writing checks personally?
I wouldn't have so many right. Also, I'm helping to manage a gold production, buying trucks, buying parts for the trucks, paying labor to fix these trucks, buying all the different incidentals, and so checks are still good.
Yeah, that would be kind of a real old school business. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, you know, Greg, even if you are using a check, there are a lot of places and a lot of banks that let you electronically run a hard copy check through their reader. I mean, I've seen it where they run the hard copy check through the reader and then hand the check back to the customer as a receipt. So it's not even going through, quote, the system.
Mm-hmm.
It's electronically going through. It reads the ABA, the routing number, and the account number, and it's automatically processed.
Huh.
I mean, nobody mails checks.
Yeah, interesting. Huh. Oh, Casey, Mr. Casey Quintana of Tsunami. Spell tsunami. This is a listener question here that just came in. Can you spell tsunami and your website address?
Sure. Tsunami is the regular traditional spelling, T-S, T as in Tom, S-U-N-A-M-I.
Okay.
And it's tsunamistrike.com, and strike is S-T-R-I-K-E. So tsunamistrike.com is our website.
Real simple. Real simple. That sounds great. Now, you have another product, the Nexus, right?
Yes. And
that's the one I got to try. That's the one that I got to give it a shot.
My poor 11-year-old guinea pig. I got to tell you the story. He's really big, which is why they recruited him for basketball. At 11 years old, he's 5'10". So, but when you grow, I guess when you grow that fast and that much in that short a time, your I guess your joints and stuff have a hard time allocating to the right size.
Yes.
Anyway, with all the stress, he's been having terrible soreness in his knees.
Uh-oh.
And he was having to ice down his knees after every practice and after every game.
Yep.
So about a month ago, I started giving him Nexus twice a day, just like an adult, a regular adult. I talked to Dr. Arnott Rutgers, who does all of the head of our science committee, and he said with Nexus, it's not a problem giving an 11-year-old a full adult dose. So I did, and it took about a month, but now he has very, very few, if any, problems with his knees after games or after practices or on the rare off days. The soreness is essentially gone. And I was really surprised that with the pounding that his body takes, that it was that effective within what I would consider to be, for a supplement, a relatively short period of time.
Wow, that's amazing. That really is amazing. Yeah, because I can't tell you how many athletes I've dealt with that it's either knees and or ankles and feet. When they go through a massive growth spurt. So, yeah, you got to watch that, and that Nexus may be the best thing in the world for him.
And for the first, he was complaining about it, but I just told him to ignore it. I thought that it was him sort of complaining about all of the activity and wanting to take some time off. So I was pretty much ignoring it. And then when he kept icing it down, well, maybe there's something here. So again, my little 11-year-old guinea pig, I started putting this into him, and boy, has it had an effect on him. I was very pleasantly surprised, and knowing that there was a problem, I was a little concerned. But he hasn't, especially from these last 2 weeks that have just been unbelievable. He really hasn't had any problems whatsoever. So it's been a great thing.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, it's an interesting story. I'll bet this is.
Let's welcome Andy Sealfon.
Hi, everybody. Good morning to all.
Good morning, Andy.
How's everybody doing? Weather's a lot better now, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we've got a little cloudy weather and a little rainy in Florida, and of course, I'm sure it's nice and sunny where Mike is, and. Charles is praying for rain up in Boston, and he's about ready to get it, too. You're going to get it from the Gulf, Charles, believe me.
I know.
And, of course, Andy Sealfon is one of those overnight successes with his company, starting it back in 1980. You've done
sales
everything.
are growing exponentially. I mean,
cool.
Did almost $8 million for the last year, 7.764 million, and growing every year. The previous year, like 6.4, up from 3.7 in 2010. That would be February, which is their year end, 2010. That would be the statement dates. So he's actually more than doubled in the last week. He's had consistent top line growth. Which is,
that sounds like us. And so what's the reason for it?
Yes, what is the reason?
That's a very good question. You can answer your own question now.
I was looking for you to answer it. Actually, I'm leaving on Thursday for a swing through Europe, and one of the questions we're going to address with all of our distributors in Europe, we're meeting with many countries in 2 centralized meetings. So what we've done is we've laid out a timeline of what has happened in the industry that we are in this immune globulin. And it really focuses what our company does really magnificently. What we saw was that the patients who need treatment with immune globulin, these are your primary immune patients, historically they didn't have very good treatments for them. Way back in the 1950s, they started injecting immune globulin into muscles. And boy, was this painful and annoying and difficult for patients. They couldn't get enough volume into the muscles to make it therapeutic. Patients hated it, and they preferred to be sick and actually die than to try to get these injections on a regular basis. And it wasn't until about the 1980s that they had perfected immune globulin to go into the vein. And that was a big improvement over these muscle injections. But going into the vein created flu-like conditions for many of the patients. Boy, they would get sick every time they got their medication. They would feel like they got the flu. It actually increases your inflammatory response, which you get fever, chills, headache, nausea, vomiting, and all that stuff every time you get treated. And long about the 1990s came along, and they started to try to use subcutaneous, which is to put this drug under the skin. And this was a big improvement over trying to put it in the vein, because the drug didn't go in as fast, it wasn't as concentrated. You went from monthly doses to weekly doses, it was absorbed slowly, and you didn't get that blast of drug that caused all these horrible symptoms and were pretty debilitating. But it had its own set of problems. And along about mid-2000, 2005, 2006, they started actually getting drugs approved for this to go in subcutaneously, and that's where our company got involved. At the point we got involved, subcutaneous was just coming on, but there was an enormous amount of problems with it. And it turned out that 70% of the patients would get terrible skin reactions, site reactions, where they tried to put the needles into the skin. And the conventional pumps that were used and the conventional accessories, the needles and the tubing sets and everything, were not really designed for subcutaneous administration. And so when they pressed these into use, they discovered that about half of the patients couldn't stand the treatment getting subcutaneous immune globulin, and they would drop out. And they'd either go back to IV or they'd try to tough it out without any treatment at all, which led to infections and other problems. So our contribution now was to create a system that was tolerable and that worked for the subcutaneous application. And so there's all of the rest of technology. There's all of the other companies, every other electronic pump, all the needle sets, all of the tubing sets that were designed in the past did not work very well for subcutaneous immune globulin. And so we have perfected a system which we are still perfecting with the goal to get the drug in the patient as quickly as possible, to make it as pain-free as is humanly possible, and to make the site reactions as minimal as possible, which improves compliance, patient health, and all the benefits of the treatment. And so that's what our company does. In the bottom line, the reason that we are successful is we provided a system for infusion administrations that was clearly superior to anything on the market. A quantum improvement in the state of the art at a much lower price point. And we think that's the model. The model is to build cost-effective products that work tremendously better than the current available devices on the marketplace. And that's what our Freedom 60 does. And in that respect, we are unique. There's nobody in the marketplace who is producing or even right now has the ability to produce a product that has the performance, has the excellence, has the quality, has the ability to address the needs of these patients to the extent that we do. And so I think the marketplace has recognized that. It wasn't that I'm a great guy, although I like to think I am, but I think our products are just very well identified as needed products that's solving a huge problems, that creates a tremendously improved quality of life, and in some cases saves lives. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing our growth.
Andy, I was thinking of you looking at disasters on all these continents, whether it was Chinese floods, you had floods in Europe, and a lot of places without power, and obviously the tornadoes in Oklahoma and St. Louis area, likewise areas without power, and thinking, boy, your systems, your pumps are perfect because you don't need electricity.
Well, that's one of our advantages. But not only does it not need electricity and batteries and the cost and the charges, but it actually performs much better than any other system, electric or mechanical. We have a competitive edge with our technology, which actually has our pump adjust to the ability of the patient to take on the drug. And so if the patient has a problem, if the sites are being saturated or if the vein is blocked off or there's a blood clot or a vein collapse, our pump will immediately and automatically adjust the flow rate. So not only is it without batteries and without needing the power and the chargers and everything, but when you're using it with or without available electricity, it's going to do a much better job for the patient. It's going to be safer. It's going to get the drug in faster, safer, with a better response by the patient. And patient compliance is a big issue. If the patient hates the treatment so much that they won't do it, they will be sick. And that costs money, and of course the patient isn't very happy being sick. And so it's that delicate balance. So when you have a product, a device, and a system, such as we have, the system of our Freedom 60, our flow control tubing sets, our high flow needles, which are exceptional in their performance, and again, expressly designed for this indication. In the rest of the world, when we compared ourselves with everybody else, people are using needles that were designed for insulin. Well, they do a good job with insulin. Insulin runs like water. You don't need a lot of it. And almost any kind of design would work. When you're dealing with what we deal with, which is very viscous materials such as immune globulins, they're very, very thick. They're like, I was going to say like ketchup, but it's not quite as thick as ketchup, but it's like motor oil. And this takes some real talent to get into the patient with no side effects, with no problems, with no complications, with no irritation. And that's where we do a great job, which is why we probably have more than 90% of the U.S. market in this area, and why we're going to Europe to do the same.
Now, the obvious question is, Europe is one thing, but I mean, I would think that this would be a real no-brainer in, like, say, in India, Pakistan, African, Bangladesh, and African nations as well. I mean, this, I would think, would be a real no-brainer over there.
Well, it turns out that the condition that we're addressing, this primary immune deficiency, occurs worldwide. The big problem with some of these countries that you mentioned is a cost. And it's not the cost of our product, but the cost of the drug. These drugs are dreadfully expensive.
Oh,
They run up to $2,000 to $3,000 per dose. So the question is, can these countries afford the drug? If they can afford the drug, then they can certainly afford our equipment to get it into them safely. But I'm not sure of the economics of being able to provide patients who need that treatment in the other countries. It really depends on their economies and their medical systems and reimbursement. Clearly, Europe has the resources to adequately treat their citizens. And, the countries that we're calling on, France, Germany, Italy, Sweden, even Ireland, UK, Denmark, I mentioned, Finland, they have the wherewithal to afford the cost of the drug. So that also has to be a factor in this.
So are these guys going to pay in euros or U.S. dollars? No, I'm just kidding.
We have a euros account. We have a euros account. We work in euros, actually.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And the reason for that, by the way, is the currency exchange shifts. And all of a sudden, instead of being in a medical business, we're playing the currency markets.
Oh, God.
And so,
yeah.
It was playing havoc with our billing system because we'd get paid, but by the time we would get, we'd do a quote, if we did it in dollars, and the time they placed the orders, then the quote has shifted for them because of the euro conversion, and then we ship this stuff, and then they pay us, and it's shifted 4 times since then. And so there was these enormous swings in between the dollars and the euros that said, you know what, we got to get a euros account so we could just lock it down and not go crazy here, and then just do one conversion if we have to bring it back into U.S. So,
wow, that
turns
makes
out there's
sense.
some practical reasons why you have to have euros.
That's I never even thought of that, but yeah, it makes perfect sense. Well, Michael, you and Charles get into the stock side of this.
Well, the sales are growing so fast that his costs are higher in the beginning because I know he's had to hire more people, and you have training and other inefficiencies when you begin with new people, don't you?
Well, there are many factors in an expansion. I think anybody who's followed us knows that we had a slow growth through the mid-2000 period, and we have to do a substantial rebuild. When we would, the difference between what we were at, $1.5 million in sales through, 2004, 2005 region, and where we are today at the 8-9 million in sales, obviously our infrastructure had to be supported with some major investments. So we have, we've expanded everything. We've certainly expanded our marketing. We have a 66% expansion of the trade show schedule. We certainly increased our staffing. We have hired some, we think, highly capable people in our marketing and sales, and that would have resulted in, some increases in our SG&A. And these are all investments for the future. We've obviously also expanded our R&D department. We have a bunch of new products en route, and these are looking really exciting. And obviously it takes an initial spool up in investment. So that plus compensating our staff to create the team that we need, adds up to an investment in the future of the company that we are making now.
And new people. You've gotten new sales people, a new sales manager.
Yeah, new sales and marketing, absolutely.
Well, and believe me, having lived through the mid-2000s along with you, Andy, I think we're all rebuilding as far as sales go, whether it's broadcasting or your industry. I mean, it's a recovery out of a recession. Period. End of story. I don't care what business you're in.
Well, and on the other hand, on the stock, something that I mentioned the last time that we had Andy on, and the time before that, was that the spread in the stock was kind of large, and that as there was more information, and as that information had a decidedly positive bent, the sales growth, etc., all of a sudden the stock that used to trade 21 bid offered at 23.5 and have a 10% spread, now all of a sudden is 20.5 bid offered at 20.9. And so the liquidity in the stock has improved, and that always helps because people who, buy low-price stocks don't really want to risk 10% from buying it today to if they had to sell it tomorrow. No news, no other impetus except that they had to sell it and would lose, 10 or 12% plus commissions. So now, we're talking about a stock that has a, 2% spread. And I think that becomes very, very helpful relative to, bringing people into the security.
Andy, how long will you be in Europe?
About a week and a half. I'm covering a lot of ground, a lot of these dog and pony shows, but we're meeting with many of our distributors overseas. We are just launching into France and Germany, and we have some new distribution channels in Ireland. We're bringing our teams in from Sweden, possibly Finland, Denmark. I'll be going to France separately. And I was supposed to go to Italy. We're not sure whether that'll come off, but either I'll be going there or they'll be coming up to us in our location in Holland, where we're doing a presentation for many of the distributors in one big meeting. So we think this is going to be the kickoff of our European effort, and it should be a pretty exciting time.
Are you going to leave the money there like the rest of the U.S. companies?
That's an interesting question. I have to study Apple a little bit more carefully to see how they do that. I was also trying to contact Mitt Romney to see how I could get a Cayman Islands account, but I don't know how to do these things.
Well, you can't. And the Swiss banking rules are not solid anymore. I mean, the banking rules are solid, but the hotel is not.
Charles, you're
but
terrible.
it becomes it becomes an issue. I've always wondered why. Why a company that does big business there wouldn't just continue to make investments there. But it is an interesting question. I mean, it is costly to bring it back. So besides the currency that you're handling by having, a euro account, bringing it back could be expensive too. Of course, the bottom line is growth and sales and profits are really the key. Where the money is really not.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Sure. I mean, that's the whole concept. Well, Andy, best of luck with you on your trip. And again, stock seems like it's a real good buy where it is right now. Right, Michael?
Yeah, it sure is. Yes.
And
well, thank you very much for your wishes. I'll be thinking of you guys while I'm floating around through Europe.
Hey, don't be a stranger. Give us a call as soon as you get back, okay?
We'll be happy to do that. You guys have a great day.
Okay. Andy Sealfon, who is the co-founder, chairman, you name it, everything at the Med Systems.
RMS
Cook and bottle washer.
Yeah, really. Yep. Mike?
RMS Medical Services.
Yep.
It's
REPR, right.
Right, yes.
Yeah, the
By
stocks.
the way, the market is not doing a whole lot. It was up as much as 50. It's now up 22. The S&P is up 340. But what has happened in the last 15 minutes, actually in the last 5 minutes, is the oil has come from down 30 or 40 cents to down almost $1.
Good.
And the gold, which we are short by being long puts in the GLD, has just gone in the last 5 minutes from down 14 to down 23. So I don't know what's going on there, but they're certainly taking the wind out of it here a little.
That's
It's still probably a bullish Tuesday, in which we're probably going to have an up Tuesday, and the best looking stock is Microsoft. It just looks fantastic. So I'm trying to buy Microsoft on any dip to add. I've started buying Microsoft at 37 and
27.
27. It's just unbelievable. It's been years and years for this stock to perform.
And the funny thing is, if you look at it technically, you see the same type of thing in several of the really big names. For example, for 12 years, you didn't have to look up a quote on Walmart. It was always in the same place. Or another one, Home Depot, 10 years sitting doing very little of anything. And, of course, when they came out of those big consolidations, Walmart went up 40%. Home Depot went up 60%. So, Microsoft on a go-forward basis, just technically speaking, looks terrific.
And you notice you don't see Casey Quintana marketing Tsunami Strike in JCPenney at all. Oh.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Well,
What?
You don't see
What
anybody
they
now
do.
marketing anything in JCPenney.
How would you like to be the new CEO of that company?
Well, he's the old
He's the old
CEO, too.
CEO.
Yeah, that's
He's the
right.
old CEO.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Can you spell Poseidon Adventure, maybe?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they did just a masterful job at alienating their core client with
Yes.
who is used to old traditional ways, trying to rocket them into the Apple mentality. What a disconnect! Holy moly!
Well, now, seriously, wasn't this like the new Coca-Cola? Remember when?
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to have the same
never-
positive results.
You will never convince me that was not a marketing ploy
from on Coke's
But
part?
it absolutely was.
on Coke.
It absolutely
Really?
was.
Are you guys serious?
Absolutely.
Huh? Oh, I never even thought about it that way. I just thought it was a disaster. But really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. Oh man. Well, Casey, tell us how can we find your products?
Best thing to do. We sell an awful lot through Amazon, and I really like it when people go to Amazon because of course we have nothing to do with the reviews on there, but we have an awful lot of reviews and they're just amazing and they're real customers. So I push people over to Amazon so they can read about it.
Okay.
It's also a great idea to just go into any Google box and a Google browser and just type in Tsunami Strike reviews and read what people have to say. You find us on Amazon. You can find us at tsunamistrike.com, and it's traditional spelling, TSUNAMI strike.com, and that's how you can find us.
That sounds great. Well, how do we get our Princeton Research newsletter, Michael?
Well, just go to www, of course, .princetonresearch.com, and it's you'll get a free copy, or call me at 702-650-3000.
And Charles, a text update?
Just text the word updates, UPDATES, to 69302.
And just a reminder, obviously, Michael will have this show on his Princeton Research website as well very soon, but Cliff is also putting all of our stuff up on not only Ustream, but YouTube. So you'll be able to watch this on YouTube in what will eventually become, oh, never mind. I better not say it. It's way premature. But anyway, it's going to be, we're going to be involved with YouTube some way, but I really can't discuss it any further. But
no, and I also can't discuss that Dr. Sam Hashem at St. Luke's is working on new uses for tsunami, for helping the brain and for treating patients afflicted with various mental disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and so forth. So that is all in the hopper, making tremendous strides.
Well, we have a lot of folks in this operation that are suffering from mental disorders, so maybe Casey can get some of that stuff over here. No, I'm just kidding. That's it. But wow, that's very interesting news. You know, but it in a way, Mike, that it makes sense. You know, when you realize what these products do, that it might kick in something in the brain that has not been used in a while. I mean, that's really amazing.
Well, Tsunami has creatine monohydrate, and there's just a ton of research and peer-reviewed published papers that have proven that creatine monohydrate has a demonstrable effect on cognitive processing. So that with caffeine, and boy, you've got a great 1-2 punch for alertness and cognitive processing.
Wow, that sounds great. Well, Casey, thanks as always. Charles in Boston, Massachusetts, have a good week, and Michael likewise. And again, you can get the newsletter, Princeton Research, www.princetonresearch.com. And don't forget the text service as well. But, guys, we'll talk to you next week. You have a great week. Mike King in Las Vegas, Casey Quintana at Tsunami Strike over in Tampa Bay, just across the state, and Charles Moskowitz, just east of Boston, Massachusetts. Have a good week, guys. Wow, another Up Tuesday, huh? Courtesy of our folks at Princeton Research, obviously. This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie. WPSLTV.com.